everyone, and welcome back to another episode on the Git Basics series. Today, we're going to talk about the differences between cloning and forking. Whether you're a seasoned developer or you're just getting started with Git, understanding the differences between these two actions is crucial. Now, to demonstrate the differences between cloning and forking, I'm going to require two different profiles. And so I'll have my profile, which you'll see on the left, and you'll see Billy's profile on the right. Today's actually Billy's birthday, and she would really appreciate it if you click the subscribe button down below and the like button. That really helps the channel grow, lets YouTube know that you enjoy our content, and most importantly, you'll be notified of any upcoming releases to this channel. So let's get into it. So to get started, let's talk about clone. When you clone a repository, you create a local copy of a repository on your computer, and that syncs with the remote repository on GitHub. So the first question we're going to answer is, how can I make edits to my repository? And so in order to demonstrate this, I'm going to go ahead and just use my profile. And I'm going to head over to our Git Basics repository. And you can clone a repository by clicking on the code button on the repository, making sure that you're on the local tab. And then if you just click on this icon over here and copy this URL into your clipboard, we're going to go ahead and use that to clone our repository. So let's head over to Visual Studio. Now I'm already in the directory where I want to copy these files. So from here, I can just use git clone, paste in the URL, and it's going to copy all the files over. So if we open up this project and select the folder, now you'll see that I have all the files right here, and I can open up the files and navigate through the folders. I can also click over here on this icon, which is the preview, and it's going to let me preview the README file. Now to make a change on here, the first thing I'm going to want to do is open up my terminal and go to a new branch. And if I look right now, I'm currently on my main branch. So what I'm going to want to do is check out a new branch. And let's call this forking versus cloning. Now I already have changes, so I'm going to go ahead and paste in those changes right here. And you'll be able to see that I have all my changes previewed on the right-hand side. So let's go ahead and save this. And after I press save, you'll see that there is a one that comes over by the source control tab. So if I click on that, then what I'm first going to do is add this to my stage, and I'll add a commit message. I'll commit that, and I'm going to go ahead and push up these changes. So then if I head over to the GitHub, we'll see that we have a new branch that was created. I can see that these are all the changes that I just created onto this branch. And you see that the branch exists right there. So we made a change to a repository that we own and are members of by cloning the repository. But what if Billy wants to make a change? So if we're Billy and we also go to the same repository, then what she will see is that she also has access to see all the branches that are available. If she goes over to the forking and cloning, she's going to see the changes that we already pushed up. And she can also clone the repository. So if she were to go to code and click on the icon, and then head over to Visual Studio, let's move into her folder. And that's basically going to be right here in the C drive. So let me organize this a little bit. And if she were to clone this, then she also has access to the exact same files. So let's go ahead and open up that folder as Billy. Now you'll see that Billy has access to also go through the different files. She can preview them if she wants. And if she were to open up the terminal, she can also just check out the forking versus cloning repository. But look what happens whenever Billy tries to make a change. And so in this, she's going to want to make a new file and make it test.md. And let's just say this is a test for Billy. So she's going to save that, and she's going to see that there is a change over here in the version control tab. So she'll add that to the stage, and she'll make a commit message. She's going to go ahead and commit that. Now you can push it by clicking this button, but what I'm going to do is if I press git push over here, we're going to get returned. I want you to see what gets returned. We get an error message with the 403 error saying that permission to the repository is denied to this profile and that Billy is unable to access that repository. Now, the reasons that she got that error is because cloning, like I mentioned earlier, creates a local copy of a repository on your computer and it syncs it with the remote repository. But if you don't have access to that remote repository, then you can't make changes to that. So let's go ahead and delete that folder. So if Billy wants to contribute to this project, then what she's going to need to do is fork the repository. And the reason she's going to need to fork the repository is because a fork is a copy of a repository that allows you to make your own changes without impacting the original project. So let's go ahead and head over to the repository. Now, as I mentioned, you have an option for cloning, but let's actually go to the fork option. And there isn't a command that says like git fork, so you're going to have to do this through the website. But if you click on fork, then you have options that say, whether you want to copy the main branch only or you want to copy all of them. I'm going to go ahead and uncheck it so I can copy the entire repository. And you can see that this is going directly into her profile. So let's go ahead and create that fork. We're going to let GitHub do its thing. So now if I go over to Billy's profile and I click on repositories, then you'll see that there's actually a Git Basics repository that she owns. So if we click inside of that, this looks very much like the Karanko Codes repository, but there's a key difference up here that says that this is forked from Karanko Codes Git Basics. So let's go ahead and clone this forked repository. And you can do this by clicking on code and then clicking on the button. And then we're going to head over to Visual Studio. We'll open up our terminal. And let's go ahead and just go into where we want the directory where we want the code, and we're going to go put it in Billy's code. And from here, we'll do git clone and copy the files. So now if we open up that folder, she can still go through the files and she can still navigate through them. She can still preview them. And let's see what happens whenever she tries to create that same test. Let's move this over here just so you can preview it. All right, that's exactly what we want. So she's going to click on the source control tab. She'll add it to her stage. She'll create a good message. And then whenever she pushes it, when she goes to her GitHub, she'll need to go to her forking versus cloning. And then you'll see that she just created a test file. And this is the exact change that we just did. So if we click on that, then you'll see that that's the change that she created. So if we were to go over to the original repository, and then we head over to the forking versus cloning, you'll see that there's no changes that were made to the original repository. So then the question becomes, how does she actually contribute to the original open source project? Well, she can do that by creating a pull request. Now, pull request lets you tell others about changes you've pushed to a branch and a repository on GitHub. So if she were to go back to her forked repository, and then she were to click on the pull request tab, then she's then going to want to do a new pull request. And then you see that you have options right here where you want to merge your changes. And she's going to want to go ahead and do the forking versus cloning. And she's going to want to put that over here as well. And now you'll see that the only change is that this is a test for Billy. And that's the change that she wants to have. So she'll go ahead and create a new pull request. She can leave a description. And after she adds a description to it, then she can create a new pull request. And now that she's created a pull request, then I've received a notification that she wants to put some code into the original repository. So let's head over to the repository using my profile. So I received an email that Billy created a pull request to the repository. And if I actually click on my notifications, then I see that there's a new change that has been requested. So I can then see what the files are changed. I can see that we have a new file that's called testbilly.md. This is a test for Billy. And I'm going to go ahead and approve that. And then after I approve that, I can just merge that into the repository. And then if I go back to the Git Basics repository, go down to the forking versus cloning, you'll see that there's her change. And so I can actually click on that and then see her change. And that is how you can start contributing to open source projects. And I'd like to encourage you to find projects that you are excited about that will help you with your career, because contributing to open source projects will go a long way in your career search. So if you're somebody that is wanting to become a web developer, then you can go to other repositories such as Bootstrap, which is an open source project. And if you can actually scroll down to the very bottom, then you'll see that there is actually something that's already written to how you can contribute to that project. Often what people will do is they'll go into the issues tab and they'll go through all these options and they'll say, okay, I can probably handle this one. So you click on that and you go through the description of what somebody created an issue for. And if you find a way that you can contribute through code, then you can go ahead and fork the repository, make your change, and then do a pull request. And then you'll become a contributor. And you'll see that this type of project, if we go over to Bootstrap, has a lot of contributors. This one has over 1,300 contributors. And this is definitely something that employers look at whenever they go through the hiring process. And being able to contribute to open source projects is something that will definitely help you stand out among the other candidates. And those are the differences between git fork and git clone. Now, to review the terms that we've went over today, head over to our repository and go to the forking versus cloning branch. And notice that at the bottom, we'll have terms that you can always reference. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment. I do try very hard to make sure that I answer all your questions inside the comments. So as always, keep up the hard work and we'll see you in the next one.